Hey, welcome to Zach's Tech Turf. Today I'm going to be showing you what I think is the best $500 gaming PC that you can build right now. I know you're used to seeing my face in these videos, but for this one I wanted to try something new and just give you the information right away. I'll include every part listed down in the description and make sure you stay tuned towards the end of the video to see how it performs. So let's get into it. To start off the $500 gaming PC, I went with the Intel Pentium G4560 3.5 GHz processor. Don't be turned off by the word Pentium here. For those of you that don't know, the G4560 is part of Intel's newest Kaby Lake processor line, and while clocked at 3.5 GHz and having 2 cores and 4 threads, it definitely competes with the Core i3s. If you haven't seen this processor in action, then I highly recommend you check out some benchmarking videos to see for yourself. Next up, we have the motherboard, and I chose the ASRock B250M HDV board. I really like this motherboard for a few reasons, one being it's on the B250M LGA 1151 platform, meaning that if you ever do want to upgrade that Pentium processor in the future, you'll have a ton of options for upgradability. I also love the all black and silver color scheme, which is something you don't typically find in budget motherboards. It's got one PCI Express lane for the graphics card that I'll show you in just a bit, and it's also got 2 DDR4 RAM slots that can support speeds up to 2400. Speaking of which, the RAM I went with is an 8GB 2133 MHz stick from Crucial. Now this stick of RAM doesn't have any sexy heatsink on it or anything, and that's because this build is themed around a case without a window on it, and so you can get the maximum price to performance ratio. I also proved in my 8GB versus 16GB of RAM for gaming video that 8GB is still plenty of memory for 2017, but by buying this single stick, you'll still be able to upgrade to another one in the future. Next up, we have the meat and potatoes of this gaming build, and all gaming builds really, and that's the XFX Radeon RX 470. The RX 470 is possibly one of the best price to performance ratio cards right now, and while it's clocked at 1226 MHz, it'll give you some serious frames per second. Here in April of 2017, I would highly recommend researching the RX 570 cards, as they are in the process of releasing as we speak, but those are just rebranded 400 series cards with higher clocks, so the 470 is still a solid choice. Keep in mind that you can choose to go with the RX 480 for even better gaming if you remove this next part that I added to the build. This next part is the ADATA 128GB M.2 SSD. The motherboard we picked does support this, so I thought that it was pretty baller to include an M.2 SSD in a $500 build. Keep in mind that this isn't an M.2 NVMe, so you won't be getting those ridiculous read and write speeds, but I personally think an SSD is necessary in 2017. I've explained this before in other videos, such as my $200 new plus used build that I just did, that Windows 10 and your main programs on a slow HDD is just not fun, and I will always recommend an SSD instead. Like I said though, if you're comfortable with only having an HDD, then you can save money here and go with an RX 480 for even better FPS. The choice is yours. Speaking of HDDs, we have the 1TB Western Digital Caviar Blue hard drive. At 7200 RPMs, this is pretty much the standard in a ton of PC gaming builds these days, and for good reason. The reliability you get with WD is unparalleled, and at just 50 bucks, you'll be able to store a huge Steam library for all your games. Moving on, we have the SeaSonic 520 watt 80 plus bronze certified power supply. I usually would recommend something like an EVGA 430 here for 20 bucks, but if you can snag up a 520 watt PSU from a brand like SeaSonic for just 30 bucks, I would hop right on that. This is a non-modular power supply, but you'll see why that won't be a problem with the case I chose. Plus, with this PSU, you'll be able to seriously upgrade your PC in the future without having to worry about replacing it anytime soon. And finally, we have the most subjective piece in this build, and that's the case. I chose the Fractal Design 1100 MicroATX case for a few reasons. First, Fractal Design is one of the best in the business, and I'm personally not a fan of spending 20 bucks on a cheapo knockoff brand case that has no room for cable management and looks like a transformer covered in LEDs. This Core 1100 looks super sleek and stealthy, and I'm personally a huge fan of it. Like I said earlier, there is no window here, so that's why I chose some ugly parts like the RAM stick and a non-modular power supply, because you won't be showing that off in this build. If you do want to spend less money on a cheaper case, then I would recommend putting those extra dollars and upgrading your GPU to something like an RX 480, or even bumping up your processor to an i3 or i5 depending on how much you want to spend. With all the parts out of the way, let's talk about what kind of performance you'll be able to get. I'm sure by now you can tell that I'm actually not building this PC on camera for you guys, so we'll have to resort to other respectable YouTube channels for the benchmarks. But first, make sure you guys let me know if you enjoyed this format of video. I would much rather build this PC on camera for you guys and test it out for myself, but with these quote theory builds, I can make a bunch more of them for you and knock out all of the different price ranges, so let me know. The main video that I'm referencing is from Hardware Unboxed, a very respectable channel with over 82,000 subscribers. With the G4560 and RX 470, he got some really great results. On Overwatch in 1080p and ultra settings, he averaged 134 FPS with a minimum of 106. In Doom, which is a very GPU intensive title, he averaged 166 FPS in 1080p ultra with no anti-aliasing, and the minimum was still 135. And finally, for a more CPU intensive title, he benchmarked Grand Theft Auto 5 in 1080p high settings with only FXAA turned on. He averaged 78 FPS and only dropped to 63, which is very respectable. So as you can see, this $500 gaming PC can get you some serious gaming power, and you'll even be able to run a fair amount of titles in 1440p comfortably. I included a lot of options that give you the ability to upgrade later in the future as well. Make sure you guys let me know what you think of this build in the comment section down below. I'm anxious to hear your opinions. Also be sure to let me know what budget you want to see next. I had a lot of fun making this video, and I will do more in the future for sure. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please drop a like down below to help support my channel, and as always, thank you for watching, and please subscribe for more Zach's Tech Turf videos.